Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Switch Statement Podcast. It's a podcast for investigations into miscellaneous tech topics.
This is the 6th episode in our series on Masters of Doom by David Kushner.
Hey, John. What's going on in your world?
Hey, Matt. My world is good. There's nothing going on, nothing special. What about your world?
You know what the shape of the Earth is, technically speaking?
Oh, man. I've heard about... It's not a perfect sphere, right? It's like a little bit compressed, like an egg.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's some weird word like ovoid, ovicular, something. Rhombus.
You're very close. It's called an oblate spheroid.
Ah, oblate. See, I knew there was like some bizarre word thrown in there somewhere.
Yeah, so my world is pretty oblate, I would say.
Nice. Yeah, you win the nerdiest response to that question for the day award.
Thank you, yes. But how is the world of John Carmack and John Romero in Chapter 6 of this fine book, Green and Pissed?
Green and Pissed, yeah.
But I guess that's not how they are, right?
Yeah, they're not... Well, I don't think they're pissed, although it did seem like Carmack had a bit of an attitude. But their world is kind of, ratcheting up. Things are exciting. Business is taking off. Catching fire. I combined Catching Fire. You know the show Halt and Catch Fire?
Yes, that is a great show.
So when I am reading this book, I think about that show constantly because it's just kind of a similar vibe. A tech team taking off in the 90s or whatever. So anyway, I combined Catch Fire and Take Off.
Yeah, no, it has that same vibe. One of the things that really strikes me as funny about this book is like, it's really playing up all the tensions.
Yeah.
And I think it's the kind of thing where, you go into a meeting and like, I don't know, everyone's talking. It's actually like mostly a polite meeting. And then afterwards you're grumbling. You're like, I don't know, like that guy was a jerk, but you don't really like, it's not like you care that much about it.
Right.
I think, but like if someone were to interview you, you might be like, yeah, like I wish John didn't do that. I feel like what happened is they interviewed these people and you got these kind of detailed recollections of the time, but that wasn't necessarily that they were at loggerheads about all of these things. Like, yeah, it was just like picking up on these like subtle emotional responses.
Oh, totally.
But it constantly feels like the whole team is ready to like break apart.
Yeah, and I feel like it's part of David Kushner like mythologizing their story, where it does feel like tensions are always high. There's always something exciting happening. And, it definitely makes for good reading, but I think it's also just probably not completely accurate. It must have been pretty chill a lot of the time. And, if anything, they have like a quickly growing, thriving business. So they were probably just happy all the time.
Right. I'm sure there was this like substrate of success that, any of these tensions are kind of like, I guess, mitigated by. But well, this is the thing, and well, okay, I guess I'm jumping ahead. I was going to make a point about Chapter 7, but it does. If I'm teasing, it seems like their success really allows them to have a tremendous amount of sway over people.
Yeah, no, it seems like the business is starting to realize that here's a team of people who just know what they're doing and are highly, highly capable. And so people are starting to come to them with things, and they're starting to have a lot more creative freedom with just basically doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
They mention an interesting... So this was like a piece of my past, and I'm wondering if there's a piece of yours. The dopefish. Have you heard of this dopefish thing?
I have not heard of the dopefish, no.
Okay, I have no idea why I wrote this in my notes. Like, I know they mention the dopefish in this chapter, but I can't remember exactly how they mention it. But the way I remember the dopefish is it would appear in all of these games. It was kind of like a mid 90s Easter egg where it would just like appear in a random video game. I even feel like I might be making this up, but I feel like it would appear in completely non-id games.
Oh, so this was just like a Wilhelm scream of the video game.
Yes. Yeah, it
industry.
just became almost kind of a meme back when there were no memes in the caveman times. But yeah, it was just like, oh, you'd turn a corner or you'd you'd break a wall down and there's a dope fish. And it was interesting to hear kind of the origin story, which I mean, if I recall correctly, Adrian Carmack designed this thing. It was part of Commander Keen. It was just this like bizarre enemy that would pop up or something.
Well, yeah. So I think I think this is one of Tom's. I think this is Tom's conception. Like this is one of his like creative ideas that they list out, and I would assume, like I think the relationship is Tom is having all these like harebrained ideas, and then it's Adrian's responsibility to actually like turn them into art,
implement them.
Yeah.
They also mention there's another game they mentioned called Catacomb 3D, and this is another one of those games that I feel like I remember, and it's hard to say if like I'm sort of remembering looking back on it, or if I'm actually remembering it as it happened.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you, but my childhood memory is like incredibly fuzzy. But I do remember this game because it just had, like, first of all, it was one of the first games that sort of like had your hand. It's like you have the viewport of the game, but then you also have this viewport that's just like you're kind of looking at your hands as though your hands are like in your line of sight. And your hand was just kind of this huge thing that was just like always there on the screen. And that's what I remember about Catacomb 3D. It was innovative in that it was one of the first to do that real FPS trope of like having your hand there. But it was also kind of like insane because if I recall correctly, your hand never moved. Like it was just this like static image. And when you cast Fireball, it would like do animate or whatever. But it was just it was interesting.
It is funny because it's like it strikes me as such kind of like a simple way to enhance the presence for the player, but it's like it's amazing how powerful that was, because like even today, even FPSs today, it's still like basically the same thing. Obviously it's all modeled in 3D now, but like you just have this arm, this disembodied arm, you don't have the rest of the character there. But it's like strictly speaking, it's not different. It's better animated, but at the core, it's still the same thing where you have like you're walking and you have just this disembodied hand. So it's amazing how even this like kind of, I don't know, quaint, incarnation of it is still like essentially unchanged since then.
Oh yeah. And also, man, like the double shotgun in Doom 2, I think to this day is still one of the most satisfying guns in a video game, because you blast, you shoot that thing and it just makes that amazing sound, and there's that reload animation. Even though it's it's old graphics, it's pixelized or whatever, but man, that was amazing, and it still I think is just slaps.
Oh yeah. But it is funny because there's another aspect to this where it's like Kushner is talking about all these things in like such grandiose terms, and then like you go and you look at a screenshot of Wolfenstein 3D, and I don't want to like take away from the programming prowess that Carmack had, but like it just looks so lame, by today. I think it's funny because in a way it looks lame in a way that Doom doesn't actually. Like the original Doom actually does retain this, like Wolfenstein has aged like very poorly, whereas Doom was able to achieve some threshold where it ages like gracefully, like a Super Mario, where it's like Super Mario doesn't look antiquated. It just looks, I don't know, it just looks like itself,
Yeah. It's such a clearly defined aesthetic that was like, that's what I see as the difference with Wolfenstein is there's all these depictions of like they're trying to depict something real. They even had rotoscoping where they would take like a real image and kind of draw over it, whereas Doom is more of like stylized graphics that I think just work perfectly. And, Wolfenstein obviously stylized, like, the big heads and everything. But I think that the game had less of its own unique style. And I completely agree that the Doom graphics still look amazing. Just completely amazing.
Oh, yeah. Well, one major thing they do in this, or like one major scene in this chapter, is they go to the people at Sierra.
Yeah.
And they just roll up as this like motley band of I don't know, misfits basically in this like shining ivory tower of game creation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this scene where Carmack just like dresses down one of the programmers.
Dude, that scene gave me anxiety.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I would just imagine like what would an interaction with Carmack be like for me? Would he just be like I would tell him something I was working on, and he'd be like, "Why didn't you just, I don't know, implement it all from scratch using like render the pixels yourself by hand?"
There was like a fairly long period in my career where that was like a fear that I had. And I guess this is like a form of imposter syndrome or just part of my imposter syndrome. But I was like worried random coworkers were going to call me out of my bullshit in like meetings and stuff. And man, the Carmack just completely doing that to that guy, it made me sad. Poor guy.
I think what's weird about it is like I feel like you want to strike a balance where you don't want to let niceness get in the way of stopping someone from doing something that you pretty strongly believe is dumb, but you don't want to be just like rude unnecessarily. And like when you have a programmer who you're not going to work with, you're not working on the same team, like there's no point. Like why would you nitpick? First off, you don't know the context of their system.
Right.
But I've worked with a pretty small set of people who feel confident enough to just like waltz in and be like, why not just do this X, Y, Z? And like, it's just hard to explain why you're in the state that you're in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like my approach would generally to be like ask them questions. If there was something that I had heard of that I thought they might not have heard of, I would have been like, have you heard about this?
Yeah.
As opposed to using the like, why didn't you just do?
Yeah.
Because like that is never useful.
Totally. Yeah. It's yet another character flaw that I think Carmack has, where he's, I don't know if it's a form of competition or what, but he just wants to be the best in the room, and he'll dress you down in order to establish his place in the pecking order.
I don't think it's about pecking order. I think it's just like an absolutely like robotic thirst for knowledge.
Yeah,
And
where
then
if he sees something
yeah.
inaccurate, he will just call it out no matter what.
Well, he sees something and he's like, okay, does this person know something I don't, or are they just incompetent? And then he goes over to them, he talks to them, he's like, did you consider X? Did you consider Y? Did you consider Z? Okay, no, you're just an idiot. Okay,
Yeah,
bye.
right. So he just doesn't have empathy and human interaction. He doesn't have EQ.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have any EQ, but he's also, by the same token, at least as far as I've been able to discern, he's also not doing it as a power move, to
Right.
try to make this other person feel small. At least, like, from the sense that I get, it's just this raw, like, thirst for knowledge.
Yeah. No, I think you're probably right. I don't think he's like malevolent. I think it's more, he's kind of on the spectrum and lacks awareness.
Oh yeah, or lacks any concern for the other person's emotional response to the grilling they're getting.
Yeah. One really interesting little tidbit in this chapter, I feel like this is the chapter where they start to talk about Doom and potentially exploring a demonic game, and they're playing with different titles, and they talk about Devil Dagger. Do you remember this part?
Well, yeah, I mean they are talking about titles for Wolfenstein.
Oh, for Wolfenstein,
and they're going to
okay.
they're going to do it in German, and
Oh yeah,
they were going to call it Devil Dagger.
Yeah. What was the German word for that? It was like Teufel or something. I can't remember.
Let me see. Teufel. That sounds kind of nice.
But anyway, it wasn't Teufel. I just totally made that word up. It probably means something like completely bad, and our podcast is going to get canceled. So
I mean,
apologies.
It probably isn't as bad as whatever they were actually trying to say.
But anyway, the reason I wanted to mention Devil Dagger is because a game came out called Devil Daggers, and it's an awesome game. And it came out in the last 10 years, I want to say. Like, it's a fairly modern game. But I wonder if they, got inspiration from id, because the game is definitely very id-like. It has a lot of like aesthetic similarities.
It might just be a callback. Like, it might be like a deep cut.
Yeah, I wonder. It feels homage-ish. I mean, obviously that's a title that you could come up with independently, but just knowing the game, it feels homage-y.
It's called Dolch Teufel, or Dolch. I don't know. Would you say the CA? It's DOLCH.
Yeah, Dolch.
TEUFEL.
Dolch Teufel.
Dolch Teufel.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then there was also Bad Smell, which is Geruch Schlech.
Yeah. Nice.
I do kind of wish they went with Castle Hasselhoff, because that's just like delightful to say.
That just rolls right off the tongue.
But yeah, so they're at this meeting with Sierra, and I think it sounds like I guess, is it a husband and wife team at the top of Sierra?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember.
Roberta Williams and Ken Williams.
Oh, yeah. I guess maybe I just didn't make that connection that they had the same last name.
But so it says that they're not too impressed with these like naive guys who are just like self-important, but they hear how much they're making from their shareware Commander Keen, and they're like, maybe we should offer these guys $2.5 million because they said that they were making like $50,000 a month from Commander Keen shareware sales.
Yeah. Which
is like unbelievable.
It's insane. Like, in the 90s, like early 90s, like that's wild. Yeah.
It's funny because I guess they were going to give them $2.5 million in stock in the company or something, but they were like, no, we want $100,000 up front.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of clear to me why they even wanted that.
I don't get it. If they're making $50,000 a month, like what are they doing? Are they buying a bunch of cocaine or something? How come they can't? We can't just wait 2 months.
I kind of don't understand what either side of the deal. Like, why did you request that, and why did the other people refuse? It's like, I'm not sure. Like, how are you offering them $2.5 million? They said stock, but it's like, I don't know, like sell some of your stock, and then like you get, if you're willing to give these people, like, I'm just confused. There's probably a lot of nuance in the deal, or like tax implications or what have you, but like,
I got the exact same feeling, and my read of it was, or what I was wondering about was if it was almost like a statement, like a principle of the thing type deal where, and I am probably reading into this incorrectly, but it felt like Sierra was offering them sort of like a, potential investment, like, oh yeah, you guys might know what you're doing. We'll give you this equity that will vest over time, and we'll see how it goes. Versus this kind of like, okay, we're going to give you upfront a bunch of money. Like, you guys are awesome. Like, it felt sort of like id wanted Sierra to make more of a statement to them that they really believed in what they were doing.
Right. But so they balk, and the deal falls through, which it's so funny because, like, man, talk about missed opportunities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I definitely remember Sierra. I think like they were the publishers of all the Police Quest and King's Quest and a bunch of amazing games. But I do think they were kind of stuck in a certain, era of game or type of game genre, and id was doing something very new and innovative, and maybe they couldn't see it.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. Like, I think. Because it's still a big bet, right? It's a bet. It's easy to say in retrospect, like, that bet paid off, but like, they might not have been willing to put 100,000 on black or whatever.
One other, just tiny thing, and I'm kind of changing the subject again, but this chapter was also the first mention of Gibs. They talk about Romero eating up Gibs, and Gibs became a big thing in the id series, where, like in the Quake game, when you kill guys with a rocket launcher, they explode into all these body parts, and those body parts are called Gibs. And it was just nice to hear the origin of Gibs.
Gibs, man, I had no idea that's what those were called. Are you saying those can be used as health?
No, they're just decorative. It's kind of weird to call them decorative, but they just add to the overall flavor of the game.
Oh, okay. Gibs, and those are like the human chunks.
Yeah, human chunks or beast chunks, just whatever chunks.
Just viscera.
Viscera, yeah. That's another good name for it.
But was it this in this chapter where they talked about how, like, they were talking about health collectibles, and like you needed to, they said, like, if you were really low on health, you could like just like eat some of the like remains of one of the fallen soldiers.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was the Gibs part. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So this was a case where it would give you health, like you're eating their which is awesome. But yeah,
some of this is a little bit too, like, it gets to the point where, like, I don't know, I played through what the hell was it? I played through
Half-Life,
Bioshock Infinite, and that was a game that actually had like a decent amount, like you could have these incredibly gruesome like killings.
Yeah.
And like I was able to like onboard that. But once Romero was like, oh, then you can piss on the dead bodies.
Yeah.
It crossed a threshold that I was like, yeah, I don't know that I can get on, like I can get on board with like an infinite amount of, well, maybe not infinite, but like a lot of gore. But like as soon as you start to get into this, like, I guess, like, would you consider that scatological humor? Like, it's like,
yeah. Now Romero is definitely in the teabagging camp, where he just wants all sorts of like shameful and horrible things to be in his games.
Yeah. But so then at the end of the chapter, it feels like we just got out of Shreveport, but at the end of this chapter, they're moving out of Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, Madison. Yeah, it was too cold.
Moving out of Madison,
which is cold. Fair.
Have you ever spent a winter in Madison?
I have never spent a winter in Madison, but I grew up in Troy, Michigan, which I'm assuming is a similar climate. And I've also never spent any appreciable time in Shreveport, but my guess is the Michigan climate is much more annoying.
Yeah, for sure. But yep, too cold. They're slipping and sliding in the winters, and they can't, as Romero puts it, they would die if they didn't have, like, if they just went outside without anything, they would just die. And so that's not what he's about. So they ship down to Dallas, right? That's their new home.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like Elon.
I guess so. Yeah. Everybody, if you want to build a business, go to Dallas. All right. Well, I think that's kind of all I had for this chapter.
Yeah, that's all I had.
All right. Cool. Well, I will see you for chapter 7.
See you for chapter 7.
Peace.
Peace.